welcome back for another Heavy Metallurgy review. I'm Dreadful Rick, and today we're going to be reviewing the debut full-length of Icelandic 5-piece called Ulfwuth, their album of Existential Distortion. So this is put out by Dark Descent. It dropped on March 17th. It consists of 8 tracks, about almost 45 minutes of music. And them being from Reykjavik, Iceland, this is a band that you can tell these guys have been performing and been in other bands for a good while. You don't put out something this strong on your debut full length if you're, kind of a new kid on the block and with music and, just testing the waters to see what this, black death metal thing is about. So, sort of saying that these guys are from Iceland, you could probably take some preconceived notions of what these guys might sound like. And when I think of Iceland, especially in the black metal side of things, I tend to think of, bands like Auden or Misforming, which our own Marty Worm has reviewed here. And so definitely check that one out. Or even Zrine, right? These guys kind of do not have that typical kind of sound you would expect from something from that region, although they do have their own signature and that they have been developing regarding on developing their own identity. But that said, they still have something that fits very snugly within the Dark Descent roster of bands. When you listen to bands from Dark Descent, there's a certain kind of bands that they tend to sign, and they definitely carry a bit of that sound. So Ulfwuth is, I would say, to describe their sound, I know they're labeled as black metal, but I wouldn't immediately lump them too much on one side of things. They also have a lot of death metal elements. And when I say death metal, I'm talking about the more sort of mid-tempo, kind of slower moving, more melodic, atmospheric side of things. Think of bands like Dark Tranquillity, and throw in a little, throw in elements of Dark Funeral, for example. So, those aforementioned bands, but without the blatant Swedishness, to it. These guys could have those influences, but without sounding too much of something coming from a region such as there. These guys definitely have also their own sound on top of that. Production on this, it's top notch. It's very, very balanced. Probably one of the best balanced albums I would say I've heard this year. It's something where if it wasn't done right, it easily could have easily took down the whole, just sound of really bringing out those little nuances of what they're trying to do here. This is a band that has layers and layers of different things going on. So they started out with the leading single, Where Strange Lights Dance, to kind of give us a bit of a hint of what was to come before this album dropped. And I would say that between these 8 tracks, they could have picked any of these songs, and it could have been a strong leading track. This is an album that's kind of meant to be listened to all in its kind of flowing entirely. It flows very nicely. The track's not really meant to stand out too much one from the other. There's a certain flow to this. There's a bit of this sort of foreboding darkness that kind of lays heavily on you. You kind of notice this when you look at the cover with that big Death Star looking thing kind of exploding to this building. It kind of gives me hints of that German band, Sulfur Ion. But without the progginess. These guys definitely do explore the big sound, but unlike some of those other type of bands, I would say, especially the ones that were Icelandic, it's not too angular, it's not way too dissonant, it's not way too progressive, or avant-garde, if you will. Definitely, it's a very middle of the road kind of album. Very mid-tempo. There are some fast moments. There's some good moments of lead guitar work. But they don't go all fast and shreddy. With it's just very light moving, but very appropriate. style of lead guitar work, adding to this sort of atmosphere. You do have two guitarists to kind of help bring out some of the what you call it, interesting textures within the sound here. So this is a band where I would say this is a good thing, because I like the fact of how digestible this is. There are some bands that are way too avant-garde and way too out there where I'm not always in the mood to put it on. I have to have the right frame of mind to really enjoy, to sit there and absorb all these different textures. This is something I feel like I could put on just about any time, enjoy for what it is, but still, you know, feel like I'm listening to something really quite intelligent, you know, for what it is. Right from the start, these guys have hit it out of the park with this. But also, with the way it ended with Leviathan Dreams, this ends on a note of continuation, that there's more to come. These guys definitely have really good ideas here, but I feel like with whatever it is that they do next, they definitely can expand on it and can develop and put more into the sound. It allows room for that. It allows room for more elements in here. But I think for now, this is a good way to kind of explore the band and see what they're about. It's something that it's a nice, balanced, and sort of interesting addition to Dark Descent among all the other stuff that they have. Having a bit of that sound, but without being too samey, if you will, with a lot of bands that, you know, tend to do something along this kind of style. So very, very good. You know, if you kind of want to know a little bit of their history, you know, they put out this EP back in 2018, First Sermon, and this one here was more on the death metal-y side of it than the black metal side of it. Still very good. You can still hear those elements of what they had eventually here in their full length. Also very strong, but this was a very limited release. I think most of us didn't even know this existed. So definitely check out the digital on Bandcamp. First Sermon, because this stuff here is the shiz bomb. You know, did I just say shiz bomb? Anyway, so definitely be on the lookout for this. If you see it anywhere in your record store or whatnot, definitely worth the pickup, or, you know, or just head straight to Dark Descent and or check it out digitally if this is something that you still kind of want to dip your toes in lightly and see kind of what this is about. I think you're going to be hooked. Really, really good stuff. So yeah, Ulwuth of Existential Distortion. So definitely room to grow, but very satisfying where they're at the moment, in this moment in time. Strong release, guys. Very glad they're here. Very glad that they're on Dark Descent. So there's my review.